Jan Švankmajer is a Czech filmmaker and artist whose work spans several media. He is a self-labeled surrealist known for his animations and features, which have greatly influenced other artists such as Terry Gilliam, the Brothers Quay, and many others. Life and career. Jan Švankmajer is a Czech animator and filmmaker born in Prague. An early influence on his later artistic development was a puppet theatre he was given for Christmas as a child. He studied at the College of Applied Arts in Prague and later in the Department of Puppetry at the Prague Academy of Performing Arts. He contributed to Emil Radok's film Dr. Faust in 1958 and then began working for Prague's Semaphore Theatre, where he founded the Theatre of Masks. He then moved on to the Latina Magica Multimedia Theatre, where he renewed his association with Radok. This theatrical experience is reflected in Švankmajer's first film The Last Trick, which was released in 1964. Under the influence of theoretician Vratislav Effenberger, Švankmajer moved from the mannerism of his early work to classic surrealism, first manifested in his film The Garden, and joined the Czechoslovakian surrealist group. He was married to Eva Švankmajerova, an internationally known surrealist painter, ceramicist, and writer until her death in October 2005. Švankmajerova collaborated on several of her husband's movies, including Alice, Faust, and Otazana. They had two children, Veronika and Václav. Švankmajer has gained a reputation over several decades for his distinctive use of stop-motion technique, and his ability to make surreal, nightmarish, and yet somehow funny pictures. He continues to make films in Prague. Švankmajer's trademarks include very exaggerated sounds, often creating a very strange effect in all eating scenes. He often uses fast motion sequences when people walk or interact. His movies often involve inanimate objects being brought to life through stop motion. Many of his films also include clay objects in stop motion, otherwise known as claymation. Food is a favorite subject and medium. Švankmajer also uses pixelation in many of his films, including Food and Conspirators of Pleasure. Stop-motion features in most of his work, though recently his feature films have included much more live-action sequences than animation. Many of his movies, like the short film Down to the Cellar, are made from a child's perspective, while at the same time often having a truly disturbing and even aggressive nature. In 1972, the communist authorities banned him from making films, and many of his later films were suppressed. He was almost unknown in the West until the early 1980s. Writing in the New York Times, Andrew Johnston praised Švankmajer's artistry, stating, "While his films are rife with cultural and scientific allusions, his unusual imagery possesses an accessibility that feels anchored in the shared language of the subconscious, making his films equally rewarding to the culturally hyperliterate and to those who simply enjoy visual stimulation." Today, Švankmajer is one of the most celebrated animators in the world. Among his best-known works are the feature films Alice, Faust, Conspirators of Pleasure, Little Otik and Lunacy, a surreal comic horror based on two works of Edgar Allan Poe and the life of Marquis de Sade. The two stories by Poe, The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather, and The Premature Burial, provide lunacy its thematic focus, whereas The Life of Marquis de Sade provides the film's blasphemy. Also famous is the short Dimensions of Dialogue, selected by Terry Gilliam as one of the 10 best animated films of all time. His films have been called as emotionally haunting as Kafka's stories. His latest film is Surviving Life from 2010. His next project is called Insects. It has a projected budget of 40 million Czech korunas and a preliminary release set for 2017. The film will be based on the play Pictures from the Insects. Artists. Life by Karel Čapek, which Švankmajer describes as following. This Čapek's play is a very misanthropic, and I always liked it. Bugs behave as human beings, and people behave as insects. It also reminds one a lot of Franz Kafka and his famous Metamorphosis. On the 27th of July 2013 he received the Innovation and AMP Creativity Prize by surrealist Films, an independent Italian cultural organization. On the 10th of July 2014, he received the 2014 FIAF award during a special ceremony of the Karlovy Vary International Film Festival. Filmography: feature-length films, short films, animation and gadgets, books. Jan Švankmajer, Touching and Imagining, An Introduction to Tactile Art, IB Taurus, 2014, 9,781,780,761,473.